And we're going to end with probably the prize jewel in the auction, or jewels really, which are the actual marbles that were used in the garden to come up with the initial ideas for the bouncing bomb.
Here it is, Daddy.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Aviation Show, brought to you as always by the fabulous Pima Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona. And while it is sunny outside, we're not in Arizona because we're around the corner from my house here in Horsham with Leo Denham at Denham Auctions, because you have a very exciting auction coming up next week, don't
We
you?
do. We have the estate of Barnes Wallis and artefacts and mementos and books and documents from his esteemed life, starting with his school days at Christ Hospital all the way through to his development of supersonic aircraft.
Which is fantastic, because Christ Hospital is a few miles over,
just
over
down the
hill,
road.
down the
Yeah.
road. So reasonably local boys. So it's quite exciting.
And he continued to support the school after, throughout his career. He was on the board of governors. He was constantly supporting the school, trying to promote science and education. And as you go through his documents, you see that a big part of his life is, trying to encourage education, engineering, and science at school.
Fantastic. So the family has put up quite a remarkable selection. So we have this absolutely stunning artwork over here, and we're going to get to some of the objects in a second. But what are some of the artworks that we have? Because they are gorgeous, and they're all from his airship period, isn't it?
Well, these three are painted by his best friend and best man at his wedding, A. Cooper, Alfred Egerton Cooper, and a lot of Cooper's early works, related around airships, and so we've got three stunning oil paintings, all of which I think you can see in the film The Dam Busters. As they were in his office, they recreated it, so these are in the film. If you look online, you'll see all of these paintings in the back of his office, and it is all the airships that he worked on, from the R9 to the R100. So the R9 approaching the Firth of Forth. Then we've got the R100 under development inside the sheds, and then the R100 in flight.
Well, the R9, that one again, isn't it? That's fine. That's the only two airships I think I know. Oh, and the R101, which of course didn't fare too well.
No.
But I think that's the fun thing about this collection, because if you've watched the Dam Busters a few times, you've probably seen most of it in there, or the recreation of his office while this was on loan at the RAF Museum.
Yes, exactly.
So not only do we have paintings people might have noticed, but we also have over here possibly one of the most famous Dam Busters photographs that's been reproduced a million times.
Indeed.
And that was hanging on his wall as well, because this is the famous 609 signed image, isn't it? Yes.
So we've got the image of the Myrna Dam signed by Guy Gibson right in the centre, which is, there's the symbolism of Guy Gibson, signing at this exact point, I think is just so striking. And on all the beaches around here, you've got the other members who signed, who are also 617 Squadron, and there's ground crew, admin staff. It's not just people who are involved in the raid in the air, it's people who are on the ground as well signing it. And if you look at the little picture here, just shows this was the Avro dinner at the Hungarian restaurant after the investiture at Buckingham Palace, and there's Guy Gibson himself sitting on a chaise longue, signing his name at that exact point on the print.
You can tell that I'm a fighter bomber guy, because I immediately went 609, which is a famous Typhoon squadron. 617, is it?
Well, I just got the airship wrong. I called that the R100.
That's fine.
So you go,
to be fair, people will know that's on brand for me. But that is fantastic. It's like, I've seen this picture so many times in books and things, and to see it in real life is quite something.
I think that for me, it's that I really feel the power of it more when I just think about how old Guy Gibson was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was 25 at the raids, died a year later at 26, and he was building 617 Squadron at 25 years old. Yeah. And that responsibility at 25 is just mind-boggling. And that's the overall feeling I get when I look at this picture is the youth of all of these people and the responsibility that was on their shoulders.
you can go. You've got the list here. Of course, Roy Chadwick, Mutt Summers on there as well. David Maltby. Oh, yeah.
You've got everyone.
Yeah. And to go with it, I think if we come around here, are the cross sections of the dams as well that they worked out. So we've got the Monar Dam again on there, and of course our shadows are coming across. And those, as the son of an architect, it is always nice to see the very carefully done cross section, and then almost the crayon blue to show where the water is.
I think it's a curious one to work out when these were used. They've got labels on stating that they were used during the briefing the night before, but we don't believe they are. Consultation with historians and specialists. There are certainly plans detailing the strike that would have been used to brief people, but we don't feel they were used the very night before.
Okay.
Just due to their size, the number of people in the room, over 100 people, and I think someone has, for clarity, because it has been a little bit vague, what side of the dam you're on. So you put that blue crayon on to just indicate which side the water is on, just so you can see.
Those are brilliant. But the thing, wandering around the collection earlier with you, is there's so much family as well. There's a picture of the kids, him sculpting. It's not just aerospace elements that are up for auction as well. It's that sort of family side of his as well.
Yes, I mean he's there. He's sculpting his wife Molly, and the bust there in the picture. And he's I think that is also by Egerton as well. So that's his friend painting him, sculpting his beloved wife, which is a beautiful family picture as well. And this photo of all his children together is in a lot of his office photos that you can find with a quick Google. You'll see all those photos in there. So there's lots of his his personal items as well.
Yeah. And then over here we have sort of his furniture and one of his desks. So which you've said you've been doing a bit of research into where the desk was from. It's not a Dam's desk. No,
unfortunately not. But it's his later work from his office on this gigantic, enormously heavy cast iron base. So this is sort of from his post-50s period. So when he would have been, working on his supersonic aircraft and his designs, and probably a lot of that work might have been done on that desk at home, and his later work with Vickers.
Mm. Oh, it'd be fantastic. My dad had desks like that at home for years and years and years, with him doodling away. It's
you should try moving this one as well.
No, I've had to move his around as a kid too many times, I think. Yeah. But then we also have, we'll call it the Slingshot, I suppose, but everyone will know this from the Dam Busters movie with Sir Michael Redgrave firing marbles across the garden.
Yes.
And so this is the one that was in the movie.
This is the very one that's in the movie. That if you actually see, I mean, the cord is still there, hanging off. The cord is looped round the wrong way in the film, and he actually pulls it back, and there's actually no pull on it when he goes. If you actually watch, there's no tension at all in it. So he actually just pulls it back a second like that, and nothing really happens. But yes, you can very clearly see that it is It is from the movie. It's exactly, the bolts are in the same position. The age of the bolts is all there. There was a bit of talk with the consultants about if there was any chance that this could have been the original that was loaned to the Dam Buster movie production team, who then added these tripod supports to the bottom, because it is slightly different from the garden photos. So you can't be 100% sure that there is no part of this that was from the original construction, because it was in Barnes Wallis's possession, which would seem, which is peculiar. But unfortunately, there's just no historical record. And the photo that we have of the garden experiment, it does seem slightly different in construction. So it's a curious origin story.
Yes. But if you're a fan of the film, which is probably most people,
yes,
I think that's it. But it's fun that he kept so much from the film, because when we get over to look at the models in the section, you've also got his own copy of the Dam Busters as well.
Yes, I think when the film was released, they were naturally given him promotional material as well. So we've got all kinds of aspects from the film that he's been given.
Super. Well, let's wander over here, because you have some of the smaller items which are absolutely brilliant. And we'll get to the ones that I wish I was allowed to bid on in a second. But as someone who's done many, many PowerPoint presentations, you've got his presentation slides, quite a few of the boxes of presentation slides as well. And these are the DAM slides. For his presentations on that.
Absolutely. And of course, within this box of slides, we found the prototype sphere that would have been used in the water tank test at Teddington, that he would have probably pulled out of the box of slides and demonstrated to his audience.
Which, funnily enough, I'm just going to run over here. We should have really put these together, shouldn't we, Leo? But there is the sphere that you found inside the slides.
Yes, in the development that eventually led to highball and the bouncing bomb, which was I think originally was Gulf Mine, and there's a tray of these at the museum, all with different styles of finish around them for engineering purposes that are beyond me, I'm afraid, but obviously to deal with striking the dam backspin and how it would strike a target. And they are identical in construction. They're all 2 inches. They're all the same material. And so this is undoubtedly one of those.
Which is fantastic. And the thing that's, as we were chatting earlier, that was fantastic as well, is as you've gone through, because you've been through every box, every book, you've also found bits and pieces within the pages of, so this is his engineer's yearbook for 1924, which has probably seen slightly better days.
Yeah.
But there's calculation notes in there as well for possibly R100.
Yes, I mean, this book was just a broken book in a pile of books just lying on it. I mean, it's split and old. And I was checking every page for formula, for anything that that might come up. And then this page slipped out, which is I believe it's talking about a round trip of 14 days, which I presume could be the trip that the R100 would have eventually done to Canada, the transatlantic trip, and it's just fuel calculations just written down on a piece of paper, and it's just so nice that it was inside the engineer's yearbook of 1924, and I think the odds that has been seen outside of that book since 1924, I think he would have done those calculations and one night and just popped it in there. And that book has just been sitting on a shelf unused since 1924, so 102 years. Yeah. Which,
So there's lots of interesting little bits and pieces throughout the collection, isn't there? So because just if we slide that there, there's more calculations down underneath as well, and it's, if you are an engineering history fan, this is really your catnip, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I'm at a loss to understand
that looks completely like
heat
Greek
transfer
to me.
Lamination motion is, I'm afraid. But the fact that again, of his vast library, you're flipping through books and books and books. Most of them just have his name signed in them, and then got to this page, and then there was a letter. This letter was folded up inside that was taped on. So he's just put these little addendums on there.
It must have been as he was reading and going through, something would strike him and he'd work away on it.
Well, the most incredible one I found that is not per se of note was just someone else's book, and it was a book that was just full of formula and equations, and I think he was proofing the book for a colleague or for the author, and you go through the entire book, there's not one note on it, and then on, say, page 98 he's written, no, C equals 5x over 21y. And he just found it's a riddle of formula. In these engineers' minds, he just saw one formula that was wrong in a book of 230 pages, and then just put it in the margin notes, which I just find outstanding.
That's brilliant. That just sort of takes me back to everyone pointing out the mistakes on my video, which you can add in the comments below. So you've got boxes of slides covering everything from the dams raid to the supersonics to everything. And then you've also got the models of the Wild Goose and the 2 Swallow models, which I am coveting quite hard. So his collection, his own collection, really covered the breadth of his career, didn't it?
Yes, I mean, we've got models, his own models. We've got the diorama of the airship docked at Quebec of the R100. We've got the Swallow, we've got the Wild Goose, and then he also had models of the Tall Boy and Grand Slam that we've got on view as well. And within the Tall Boy, I did find, I was examining it, heard a rattle, and just played around with it and pulled it open. It was a half construction, and a penknife, a Sheffield steel penknife just fell out of it, which we then put in the auction now. So the models revealed other secrets too.
That's fantastic. So just as I'm going to geek out about the Swallows, because these are the variable geometry aircraft that he was working on in the late 50s. So the white model is the one that's got the articulating,
yes,
the articulating wings. So we've moved the model over here onto Barnes Wallis's desk. So the one that you've probably seen in a lot of the pictures is the fully jazzed up one, as you can see, with the cabling to remote control it. But this would have been probably one of the demonstration models that would have traveled around. So we've got a fabulous box for it to all fit in. But then if we look at this model here, you can see that it is fully articulating to be able to show the variable geometries that the aircraft could have potentially gone to. And the fascinating thing about the Swallow and the Wild Goose on there, the data, and you also have a copy of the NASA files over there that went to Langley that tested all of Barnes Wallis's maths. A lot of what Wallis worked on with the Swallow would then go on to the famous variable geometry aircraft that the Americans produced a bit later, the F-111, the F-14, and of course the B-1 Lancer. So whereas Wallis isn't responsible for those aircraft, he is responsible for some of the maths, which for an engineer and for those aircraft, which in the case of two of them are still flying, these models are key elements for swing wing aircraft that came a bit later, and of course high-speed flight. And yeah, this is, you're gonna have to check my pockets, Leo, before we go, because this is really, really quite something. But that is, there we go, let's pop it back the way it should be. There we go, super. So if we head just over here, we can actually see that report that would have been sent to him to discuss what NASA found out at Langley.
Yes. And there it is, with the secret stamps all over as well. Only 2 of 5 editions as well.
So John Stack, member of steering committee. Yeah. Even in the 50s, they used far too many words than they actually did. They were transmitted herewith 3 copies of the preliminary data from the wind tunnels at NASA. Super. Well, you've got fabulous stuff. If you just, there's his copy of the Dam Busters. So Blu-ray, DVD is a whole lot easier these days. Lots of bits and pieces from the film. You've got the vinyls of the March.
So we've got 3 versions, I think, belonging to each member of the family. That's Elizabeth's personal copy that she would have been given at the time because she was in the Dam Busters movie. If you remember, she was actually uncredited, but sitting in the water tanks at Teddington with the camera submerged. And she says, "I think I got it," and so she has a part in the film.
3, 2, 1, fire!
Okay, I got that all right.
There's his copy of the Dam Busters March there. There's the cinema promo brochure that we have, along with a sort of a blue and red copy of the poster, the half sheet, and then his personal copy of the Dam Busters in 4 reels of film.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So how fun would be to get that and then, of course, put it on.
Dam Busters movie night.
So then there's his satchel and things. We've got the very famous little model of the Wellington that's in most pictures on his desk, which of course was one of his great designs. So you also have a very poignant little item here in the collection, Leo, which is the image of Guy Gibson's grave that Wallis kept on his desk, you say?
Yes, he was shot down a year after the Dam Buster raids over Amsterdam. We think he was shot down. I think the actual the details of what happened are not quite not quite known, but he's buried alongside him is his navigator. And again, if you have a little look at photos of Barnes Wallis in his office, you see that photograph on his mantelpiece, which must have meant a lot to him, the deaths of those in 617 Squadron, as well as the civilians, greatly saddened Wallis throughout his life.
And we're going to end with probably the prize jewel in the auction, or jewels really, which are the actual marbles that were used in the garden to come up with the initial ideas for the bouncing bomb.
Yes.
And the family have kept these for all those years.
Well, Elizabeth Gaunt, Barnes Wallis's daughter, has kept them all her life. She's had them occasionally on view for road shows and things like that, but she was always very fiercely protective of them as a child. Even her sister, Mary Stokes Rowe, when recounting the story of the garden experiments, even pointed out in the interview that she did that they were her sisters, and her sister was always very adamant they were my marbles that Daddy was using. But it's just amazing to look at something so simple and childish and just think the origin of what that led to, the prototype of what that was, the prototype of the idea that these were used for is just is mind-boggling. It really is. And
in a peppermint lumps box,
yes.
which is lovely. Leo, thank you so much for letting us come in before you and opening up early to show us around. When is the auction? How can people find you to find out more? And of course, get a copy of the catalogue if they so wish.
We're all online at denhams.com, and we're just on the outskirts of Horsham with a huge car park, so you can just pump in our postcode and come and see us. We're on public view Saturday morning, all this week till Saturday, and then the Monday, Tuesday before the auction, which is on the 25th of March, starting at 11 in the morning.
Super. And of course, if you can't get here in person, it's on sale room.
Yeah, so if you go to sareham.com, you can bid that way and leave bids, or just phone us up and leave an absentee bid as you like, and however.
Super. Because if you're going to bid, you will need quite a bit of pocket money for these. What is the reserve on the marbles?
Well, the estimate we've said is 20 to 30,000 based on sort of market considerations. So it seems a reasonable start for something that is of that historical importance, really.
Yes, I shall be very carefully put those boxes back, so I will not be bidding on those. Leo, thank you so much for your time.
Indeed.
And of course, there'll be links in all the description below to come and have a look at the collection, which is all online. And of course, Wednesday, the 25th of March, is the big day.
That's it.
All the best for it.
We'll see you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's Diggy. They've done it. They've got the Denham as well. Wallis, when you first came to me with this, I didn't believe a word you said. But now, you can sell me a pink elephant.
I'd like to say thanks to all of our fantastic supporters over on Patreon. If you head over to our Patreon page, you can join the fun from just £3 a month, plus a bit of VAT, get your name in these very credits, and get all the episodes ad-free and early as soon as I get the edit finished. The Aviation Show is hosted and produced by Matt Bone and is a Boney Abroad production.